Hello, welcome everybody. So we're going to talk today about Stairway to Heaven. I'm just going to analyze Robert Plant's vocals here a little bit. See what we can come up with in terms of, teaching and how to kind of go about some of this stuff. Obviously, you just heard me do a little bit of a rendition of that. I haven't heard this song in a long time, so this will be a little bit of a reaction video and also an analysis. And like I said, I'll try to give some helpful tips along the way. So let's do it, shall we?
There's a lady who's sure all that glitters is gold, and she's buying the stairway to heaven.
Oh, it sounds like they put like a little bit of a double in the back of that last line. Heaven. Anyway, when we start right out of the gate here, we hear how much there's a storyteller quality and how much that kind of is lost nowadays in terms of music. It can be really hard, like when stuff had more dynamics and it wasn't completely smashed and everything's completely smashed and compressed, there's a little bit more room for those kind of dynamics and storytelling and stuff. So he can almost kind of talk his way through this like he's telling a story, and he's not really thinking about there's a lady. So what to take away from that? I mean, these things can take a long time. If you hear my dog squeaking, he's squeaking a toy back here. These things can take a long time to kind of gel with and get better with and really become comfortable with your storytelling, your voice, and all that kind of stuff. But yeah, being able to tap into a song emotionally, and even if you don't know what the hell you're talking about, which, I really don't know what this song's about. Did he really know what the song was about? Did he write it from that place? Was he kind of channeling it through? I mean, when I write lyrics, I'm and all that kind of stuff, I'm trying to pretty much get out of the way and let whatever wants to come through. So without saying too much there, let's continue and just kind of keep listening to that, again, that storyteller quality and how much that is just beautiful. There's a lady who's sure. It's not lady who's sure. It's not anything like that. It's just got these lovely little ups and downs. And it makes you want to kind of listen more like, man, it sounds sad.
When she gets there, she knows if the stores are all closed, with a word she can get what she came for.
So good. Also, autotune would ruin these things too. Most people would want to go about fixing this stuff right away, and it would take all of those little subtleties away.
Ooh, and she's buying a stairway to heaven.
So, one thing we talk about right away is just the dynamics coming from the diaphragm and how we're building things up and down, and how we're sitting on the diaphragm consistently all the time. So even though it sounds like he's just speaking, there's a lady who's sure all that glitters is gold, and just kind of sitting right here, I still want to be engaged with the diaphragm, and as always, I still want to be breathing down here because that's the way singing works. There's a lady who's sure all that glitters is gold, gold. So even my vibrato wanted to kick in there as a product of singing correctly or breathing correctly and all that kind of stuff. So again, if you haven't exercised this kind of stuff where you're just learning to sit right here, again, you can even learn how to do this and speak through it. It's just a matter of taking these muscles out of the equation and then learning how to sit right here. And again, there's a lot of voice actors that do this. I do voiceover stuff sometimes too. And there's a lot of people that have to do announcements and stuff. And he throws the ball to third base. Oh, big fucking failure there. So sometimes to get away with talking for a long time, they have to sit down here and drive the voice from here. So if you're not used to that yet, like I said, it doesn't matter how loud you're being, but we want to get to know that relationship between speaking. There's a lady who's sure. There's a lady who's sure.
There's a sign on the wall, but she wants to be sure, 'cause you know.
So he just rhymed wall with shore right there, which is so cool. There's a, what is it? I can't remember the line. Like I said, it's been a long time since I've heard this. I did pull up lyrics though. There's a sign on the wall, but she wants to be sure. Sure. It's so cool how you did that.
Oh, sometimes words have two meanings.
Now, it should be mentioned as well that these things are printed onto tape. One of the things I noticed making music, my first album and second album, and writing all the instruments myself, started to enter into Trump there, and writing all the instruments into myself, is that when you're trying to fill up a digital space, it's just infinite, and sometimes you're just like, oh, we need another part here, and we need another part here, and that's not the case. It's just that when things were on tape, you probably already know these things, right? But something's on tape, it's sitting on top of something that's already making noise, and it's already adding a warmth and a feel. Tape sounds like that. So then you're putting something on top of that, and it all starts to beautifully, seamlessly integrate together and glue itself together and everything. But digital space sounds like this. So when you put something in that space, it just kind of like enters into a digital empty realm, and it can feel very daunting to writing songs and being like, man, these bands that used to just use like a guitar, drums, and bass and vocals, like how did they get it to sound so fat and wonderful, and how did they get mixes like this? Well, first of all, that shit was on tape. So again, should you get a better mic? Should you get a better this? Should you get a better that? No, man. Start where you are. Meet yourself where you are right now. And as I always tell everybody, the most important thing for any of this stuff is not what kind of guitar or kind of thing you have and waiting until the right moment. It's about creating stuff, because nobody cares about what you're creating. Nobody cares about how good it is. Nobody cares about any of this stuff. So you might as well just get on with creating because you want to do it, not because you're waiting for somebody else's approval. So just a little bit of life advice there.
In a tree by the brook, there's a songbird who sings. Sometimes all of our thoughts are miscued.
So beautiful display of that again, where we have that dynamic. So he starts off, there's a tree by the brook, there's a songbird who sings. Sometimes all of our thoughts are misgiven. And again, we would not have that in songs nowadays. But if you want to practice something like that, it literally feels like a gas pedal. And that's the way I tend to teach these things. So many things like a gas pedal, where we start, and you're doing a sit-up. You're sitting up in your chair, and everybody sings better in the car, right? I sing better in my car, man. What the fuck? That's most likely because you're in this position. You're already kind of doing a sit-up and a little bit, and you're just getting in there. And it can be harder standing, sitting. You have to practice these things all over the place. But point being, again, you're sitting up. You're doing this. I know everybody would love to be like, it's your poop muscles. Push down into your poop muscles. I've never thought about it that way. I've never almost shit my pants on stage. Thank God. It's a sit-up. Your diaphragm is engaged like a sit-up. So I understand how these things are integrated, but for me, that's just not the way I feel it. Maybe it is for you. Maybe if you're 80 years old and you're in a nursing home and you're coughing a lot, maybe then you might shit your pants. But to me, I just don't feel it that way. So shall we continue? Good.
Ooh, it makes me wonder.
How great was that coming out of makes me wonder, and you go into it's so cool.
Ooh, makes me wonder.
I never knew that was in the song. That sounded a little bit like this larynx chopping. I'm doing it too fast. That was a really cool effect. By the way, Chris Cornell does that at the end of Show Me How to Live. That's not what he was doing here, I would imagine, but it was still a cool effect.
There's a feeling I get when I look to the west, and my spirit is crying for leaving.
It's worth mentioning how many songs by Led Zeppelin, since I'm not a big fan or whatever, but how much it always sounded like he was traveling, moving, finding a new woman, getting rid of the woman, going to another place, being a vagabond, being a, like all this kind of stuff, being a rambling man. I need to ramble on. It's just funny. It just seems like that comes up a lot. Kind of makes me jealous in a way, because like I'm always just, I've moved to a couple different cities and done some crazy shit, but I haven't really gotten to do anything like that where I'm just traveling around.
Thoughts I have seen, rings of smoke through the trees, and the voices of those who stand looking
And then we gotta skip ahead because I'm taking too long.
whisper that soon, if we all call the tune, then the piper will lead us to reason, and a new day will dawn for those who stand long, and the forests will echo with laughter.
So now one thing, since we're going to be moving into mixed voice territory and the difficult stuff that, I was doing in the beginning of the video, we hear it's kind of a part of his voice, but these things are tricky for people because when they don't adopt any kind of mixed territory, nasality, and they don't get to know what these things sound like or whatever, then they're not going to adopt them into their voice, or they're going to have trouble adopting them into their voice. So say you learn how to make some of these funny little noises. I didn't think that was a part of my voice at first. I thought it was some cartoon, awful, terrible sound. And then you find, oh, that's kind of helping me connect my chords together when I rise higher. That must be important. So you start giving more kind of, what's the right word? You start kind of giving more appreciation to it, and you start kind of recognizing the old way of singing where it's not working and you're caught in your neck, and then this new kind of transitionary place. So when you hear him right there, we'll back up for a second, you hear how he's got some of this kind of bratty, kind of nasal type of sound, and you might not associate it like that, but he's got some kind of a this kind of cry in there, just ever so slightly, and it just gives that mixture quality of like kind of knowing what's coming, showing your voice what's coming, because if it was da 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 da, but it's da 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 da, he's kind of hopefully that makes some sense.
Day will dawn for those who stand long, and the forest
Do you hear that now? Forest
will echo with laughter.
Okay, we got to keep moving on. Video's getting too long.
Be alone there.
Oh, this is great. I love this part. We all do. There's a bustle in your hedge.
If there's a bustle in your hedgerow, don't be alone there. It's just a sprinkling for the May Queen.
What the fuck is he talking about? If there's a bustle in your hedgerow, don't be alarmed now. It's just a sprinkling for the May Queen. Man, to be English and know what he's maybe is talking about, because I have no idea. Sounds so great though, and again, hopefully you hear he's ushering in a little bit more of that. Oh, don't be alarmed now. This kind of thing.
Yes, there are two paths you can go by, but in the long run, and there's still time to change the road you're on.
So we also hear a vibrato here, which is not a regular vibrato, or not a normal vibrato, or not a real vibrato. That was a long way to go to get to that, but these is not a real vibrato. A lot of people put that onto their voice, possibly by accident, possibly just because that's some way they're associating with their voice or whatever, but I have a lot of students that they don't like their voice, so they start doing like and again, that's it's not ever a good sound, but it's very subtle here, and it's kind of adding to his vibe and stuff. But if we continued that and turned it into a full note, it would straight up be which is shaking my whole body, and again, that's not advantageous to chase after. A real vibrato is produced from the from the diaphragm and from your connection to the diaphragm and the way you're singing and being relaxed and all this kind of stuff. But just a good thing to notice, and you can still take that and learn from it. I just posted a course here recently. I should mention this because it's called Rock Solid Foundation. You can find it in the description. But if you want to learn how to do some of this stuff, I definitely think you should check out the course, because it's going to go over breath, support, all this kind of different stuff. And then I'll be making a mixed course here soon and a distortional course and stuff. But if you don't have a foundation to understand some of these things, everything is just much harder. And I know that because that's the way I learned. I never had a lesson before. I've been teaching for 15 years now, and you learn a little piece, but then you didn't have the bigger piece, so then the little piece doesn't make sense. So you keep pushing the little piece harder, and it gets more and more confusing, so then you have to keep reverting back. But it's still the way life is sometimes, you know. You come out here, and you're like, I think I got it, and then you try to do it live or something, you're like, I don't got it. So skipping ahead, let's get to the end part here.
And as we wind on down the road.
So first off, we hear two vocals at the same time. We hear a vocal double singing the same thing twice. And what's cool about tape is that they didn't perfect these things quite as much sometimes, so there can be little fly-offs or S's that don't line up and things like that, which is actually pretty cool. You can even hear that in like newer records like Nirvana and stuff.
I should stoner than I sold.
Right there, you heard it. He sang soul different.
There was a lady we all know.
That was different.
Whose strange white light once a shadow. How everything still turns to stone.
So now, a cool thing is happening here. The double and the recording quality, and of course this is probably pulled from with AI or something like that, which makes it sound weird anyway. But a lot of people, if they're going to do Robert Plant, they're going to instantly try to distort their voice. Yeah, he was like distorted all the time. It's like, no, he wasn't. Sometimes he had a little bit of grit. Some of the notes he had a little bit of grit. But a lot of times he was relatively clean, but he was in a space that could just start to distort, which I know might not make sense. But again, if you're just going to like instantly... you're trying to distort everything, you're just probably going to wear yourself out or blow your voice out, especially if you're not doing it correctly. And in this case, he probably wasn't really distorting much at all. It's just the quality of the way it sounded, especially with the double. So I know I was probably distorting a little bit in my... It doesn't matter. But as we keep going here, again, listen to that double and just that beautiful way that it's, you know, kind of symbiotically... What's the right word? How it just completely connects together and sounds like one awesome thing.
And if you listen very hard, the truth will come to you at last.
So that was weird too. There was like parts that he stopped and didn't, and I can't tell what happened there.
When I woman was all, 2 feet of rock and not the
There we heard distortion, vocal distortion, and a nice kind of strained but good, open kind of lovely sound, and it sounds emotional. I recognize now again, too, that they were probably having trouble pulling the vocal out of the song, so it probably ducked a little bit. It sounded like he moved from the mic and everything, but anyway. So now let's talk a little bit about trying to go about this stuff. We're already at 18 minutes, and I'm sure most people, you know, clicked out by now. But if we get into the hard stuff here, as always, when I make these videos, we want to try to recognize a path forward. Are you going to know all the parts and all the pieces and figure them all out at the same time? No, most likely not. But finding one path forward, just know that it's probably not everything. You didn't adopt in everything, and you know, especially if you're watching this video and thinking you're going to learn how to fucking sing like Robert Plant in one video, that's not going to happen. That's like looking up how to build a house and then being like, yeah, I just figured it out. Just watch this one like 20-minute video. So give yourself that grace and gentleness of recognizing this is going to take some time, and it's a practice. It's an ongoing thing. But anyway, first kind of thing is we want to try to recognize that the larynx is always kind of going up on you, and we want to try to learn how to bring it down. Oh, as we wind down the road, oh, is down here. As we west is up here. So again, if you're turning into Kermit like this, as we wind on down the road, that's super up here, and it's just going to choke off your throat. So again, the thing I always teach is about going sideways versus horizontal. And as we wind on down the road, yeah, listen very high, yeah. You should be able to see I'm going like this and pulling everything down. So that's super important. That takes some time. Again, one of the simplest things I can tell you right now is sirens, things like that, learning how to get from point A to point B and what that feels like, what's getting in the way. Do you notice your larynx is moving up on you? How can we move it down? Well, there's stupid exercises like this. Getting it to lower. I know you can't see with my beard hairs. But first, I have had plenty of students that cannot get their larynx to go down when I tell them to do it like this. But again, if you can, do that, and then give it to me on one note. This is taking the vocal tract and starting to stretch it down like this. So just like a balloon, if you have a balloon filled with air and you take the top of it, you're going... like this, and then your vocal cords are going along with it and stretching downward. So and then take that same feeling and start lightly moving through your bridge. Getting to know that feeling, and that's going to take a while to integrate. And then again, when it comes to learning how you're moving through the body, learning how you're moving through the nose, that sound is moving like a thermometer. You're going to have to get used to that and start letting it be where it wants to be and letting it sound like the way it wants to sound. Because again, if you're used to just hearing your voice through a chest voice type of register, and as we whine, you're not going to then adopt in, and as we whine on, this kind of sound. Now, what you heard me do right there is a little bit more of a higher larynx type of thing, but it was still just using this cry muscle thing. So also, when we talk about shifting from ah to ah, so many people would teach that. It sounds like a motorcycle sound or something, but we talk about cat noises, we talk about the cry technique, we talk about the door hinge, the squeaky door, all that kind of shit. Very, very important because you're learning to isolate another muscle group and to utilize that. So we're literally going, again, just like I talked about with the diaphragm and the neck, we're learning how to take one group that's not serving us anymore as we move to another thing and transfer that energy over to another muscle group, just like we're handing it over. At first, you might very much feel like you're handing it over, like, here you go. Right when you get to your bridge, you're like, here, take it, I can't do it anymore. So if I go, oh, this muscle group is trying to freaking hold on to me and do what I need it to do, but you can tell it's starting to fail. So again, I'm going to start moving that to this crazy kind of bitchy sound. And you could see my whole physicality change there because of that handoff. So even if you can just learn how to do something like this by using those muscles, and as we wind on down the road, I'm not really supporting that or anything. I'm just making funny noises. But I can sing through that, and that's a big piece of this, is learning how to use those muscles. And the harder you cry, and as we wind on down the road, and I start pushing into that, I can kind of get even more connection. But it opens up a whole portal of amazing things you can start learning how to sing. And again, is it everything? No, but it's a big piece of this. So I've talked for 23 minutes. I know there's so much I could have gotten into with this stuff, but like I said, that's why I have other videos. That's why I have vocal courses. That's why I have wonderful clothing lines like this, so that you can check out other wonderful things I'm making. And hope everybody's well. I'll see you soon.